Hello, this is Nikema Prophet. This is the Our Voices podcast. And today I'm here with Jeph. He's the founder of Talentpoel. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about his story and what he's doing. Jeph, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Jeph. I'm the founder and CEO of Talentpool, and essentially, what we do in our company is we match mid-level and senior-level talent in Africa to companies based in the US and Europe. So yeah, we are basically a talent network looking out for the best non-technical talent in Africa.
That is a super interesting service. Like I've never heard of anything like that, and it seems like it's so needed. But how did you come? Like, what inspired you to start this company?
That's a very interesting question. Reason being, roughly this year, I actually had a startup I was working on with my friends called Pade. So Talent Pool was not even in the picture. Like there was no company called Talent Pool. I remember I was in my office sitting down one night and the idea came to me and I wrote it down, like wrote down the vision, wrote down the idea, the go-to marketing plan. And I kid you not, as soon as I wrote it down, I closed the book and I said, nah, this is too much work. Like I already have a team, I'm paying, I'm building an MVP for an app. But it became so pressing that I couldn't sleep. Like I literally could not sleep. Every day I was always thinking about the idea. So I spoke to my mom. I told her this is my idea. And the first conversation we had, the first thing she said was, you can even call this, she said, and I quote, you can call this your talent pool. I know when you have like a light bulb moment, that was just mine. And remember I went online, I checked what does talent pool mean in different languages spoken in Africa. And this is the spelling like talent pool. So it roughly translates from Afrikaans in South Africa to talent pool. And yeah, we just started building it. It wasn't easy. Like I got rejected by four people to be my co-founders. Like it was a journey, like starting talent pool, but so far we are doing pretty great.
That's really cool. Like I love how it was this idea that wouldn't let go of you. Like you had it kept coming back to you. Um, but let's back up a little bit. Like, what was your journey getting into tech initially? Like before you were a technologist, because I've seen a little bit of your background that you have experience. So, like, what was it? What was it like for you to get started from before becoming a technologist?
Wow, it's taking me back to 2016. So I was in college. So I remember my sister at that time, she was also in college and she said that she was earning $900 per month. Like people in Nigeria can know that that's a lot, like huge amount of money for someone that is just like 17 years old or 18. I can't remember like what I was like, what? $900. And to give you a quick analysis, we have families in Nigeria that people earn less than $500 per month. And you have families of five, four, six, seven. For someone I knew was earning $900, I'm like, okay, hmm, this is interesting. I've never been a tech person here, but I've always been someone that is curious. Like I've written books, like about three. I've done a bunch of like volunteering, like in terms of NGOs. So I was like, okay, let me discover or let me know what tech is all about. So I started off with front end development. I learned HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I'm like, nah, this is not for me. Then I moved to digital marketing, moved to social media, went back to technical, like went back to cybersecurity. And I went back again, like to front end. But I'm like, nope, I want a career. I can look back. That's what I always tell myself anytime I want to move. So I see myself doing this in 5 years. If the answer is no, I just pick up my things and leave. And I learned recently that that's it. Like not everyone can do. In the case of my 7 years in tech, I've done more than and yeah, and from community to social media to digital to content to cybersecurity. So I was just having fun, transitioning from different career paths. And yeah, been my journey so far.
That's cool. So that was your sister that you said was earning 900 a month?
Yeah, my sister was earning $900 per month, which was crazy.
What was she doing to earn that much money?
So she was a front end developer, and she was working for a company based, I think, is this Czech Republic or yeah, I think Czech Republic. So she was working for a Europe-based company, and she was a front-end developer. And mind you, I have never seen that huge amount of money in my life because I was just in college, yeah. So I didn't really know about tech world. Like I didn't know you could work remotely. She was sort of the first person that I saw in my network that was doing like amazing things. And I'm like, if she can do it, why not? Like, why not I do it as well and follow in her footsteps?
Oh, okay, so that's where you got the idea to study the front end development, but you didn't like it.
Exactly. I'm like, nah, I'm not a coder. I have a brain that can sort of adapt, but I'm like, nah, I find coding really boring. Like, no shade to anyone. I just find it very boring.
I love this perspective because a lot of, I mean, on Twitter, there's a lot of activity around learning how to code and especially like front end and full stack development. So I like hearing from a different perspective. Um, and I think that might be inspiring for some people who don't enjoy coding. Like there are other paths that you can take. So you're kind of not liking to code seems related to the company, like it's non-technical talent. How did you decide that you were going to have a pool of non-technical talent?
Awesome. So most people don't know that as a non-technical person, like my last role as a community manager, I'm sure I've said this before, but I was earning like $6,000 per month. Yeah. And most people feel like technical people are paid well, which they are, but you can also get paid well as a non-technical person. So while earning this amount, I realized that I was the only one in that vertical. Like most of the events I spoke at, most of the companies I was interacting with, I was the only black person. So I'm always curious. I'm like, we have over 243 million people in Nigeria. So you're telling me that not one person has like a remote non-technical role. So what I used to do was I would refer people like you, and most of them got the but this year I was also planning to refer, but the idea was two persons. And I saw a quote on Twitter, which is crazy, that made me start a company like Talentpoel. And the quote was, "You don't choose great ideas, they choose you." And that was just the nudge I needed. Like I was just waiting for that sign, and it came, and we launched the company, and yeah, we registered in Delaware, registered in Nigeria, and we're just pushing.
Yeah, that's amazing. How long have you has it been since you founded the company, or how old is the company?
I always ask people like to guess, like how old do you think Talentpool is? Like, just guess.
I'm gonna guess a year.
It looks like it's a year, yeah, but we started operations in March this year, like crazy, like just March this year.
Oh wow. Okay, so
It looks like we have not
recently.
exactly like even the progress we have made. I'm like, what? What's going on? Like, it's taking life a life of its own. Like, we have clients, we have talents, we're just building, and we started operations in March of 2023.
Wow, that's impressive. Can you share the numbers? I know you don't like if it's private or proprietary, you don't have to, but are there any numbers that you can share about like how many you have of your talent and the companies on the other side?
So it's actually public information. Like, you can actually see it on our website. But so far, we have six talents, and we have four companies we are getting talents for. So those four companies, some have one, some have two, but we have six talents now. And in terms of MRR, I think this one we should hit 7,000, which is amazing.
That is amazing. Wow. I'm impressed.
I'm impressed. Like, I'm like, what's going on? Like, it's not easy because I think currently once I just left. I left the previous company. I was laid off from the next one I joined, and I didn't have any money. I was broke, so I just did like a leave, like a sabbatical leave. Went to Nairobi, climbed a mountain. Like, I climbed a freaking mountain, and like cleared my head because I wanted to know my next step. So when I go back to Nigeria, I was like, okay, let me see, keep applying for jobs. But I was just constantly being rejected. So I'm like, you know what? Like, this nudge, I needed to start a company, and I did it. And mind you, I had $0 in my account. I was completely broke. So it made me think, how do I start a company with 0 naira, or rather $0? And I had a good network. So I leveraged off everyone I knew. Like this website was done by my friend, logo was done by people I knew. Like my clients were literally people that I knew and people that introduced me to other folks. So I just leveraged on my network very well to build my company. And so far, like we started operations in March and we spent less than, like now we hired people, but then we're spending less than $200 monthly for operations. So it's also a thing of your network is very important. I wouldn't be able to build a company without having like a strong network like supporting me.
Did you seek investors or are you completely bootstrapping the company?
So right now we are completely bootstrapping, yeah. But there's a roadmap for talent pool, and I always say this to everyone that asks. We have three phases we are heading towards. The first phase is what we are doing now, and that's basically matching talents to companies in the US and also in Europe, like the manual method, building those relationships, getting our voice as like our footprint in the tech ecosystem. That's the first phase. And the second phase is we're going to train mid-level, non-technical talents to become senior level because I feel like there are not a lot of leadership opportunities for Africans. So we're going to actually train people to have that leadership ability and match them to companies. Then the last phase where we are heading into is a self-service platform where you can easily hire, pay, rates, like basically like Fiverr, but for Africa, yeah. But it's more detailed. Like you can hire a team, manage that team on the platform. You can hire an individual, manage them on the platform, full time, part time contract. Yeah, that's what we're heading towards.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So that is, yeah, that's, it's really smart. Like I'm speechless because I'm just thinking of like what a great idea it is and like how successful you already are with it. That's kind of amazing. So how do you go about with the additional training for these maybe mid-level positions?
Awesome, awesome. So we have paid workshops and we also have paid courses. Yeah. So paid workshops cover because we have five core areas we focus on in talent pool. That's marketing, support, sales, finance, and human management. So these are the core non-technical areas that most non-technical roles fall under. So we have paid workshops that they must take. They have paid courses as well they have to do. So every talent signs a talent pool for 2 years. Yeah. Within that first year, we onboard you, make you know all the plans we have. Then second year is full training in terms of you have the certain skill sets to go to the next level. Because after 2 years, you're out of our network system. So we make sure that there's a full like curriculum they focus on, they build on, that we pay people to do workshops for them. But we focus on these five core areas for the workshops. So it might be a content marketing class, a digital marketing class, and we also take feedback because I feel feedback is essential, yeah. Because you might be building a product or building an idea, and you might think it's so great, but your users are like, nah, we're not interested. So feedback is also essential towards what we are building in terms of like the paid workshops.
Okay, so your talent has to take paid workshops from you. That's part of
Mhm.
your revenue stream.
Not so paying workshops doesn't necessarily mean that they are paying for it, yeah. Because the way we make money is we agree on the price with the clients, yeah. Then we have our compensation we take monthly. So I mentioned every talent signs with us for 2 years, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
within that 2 years, we actually have a cut we take. So the paid workshops, talent who covers that, they just attend. They don't
Oh,
need
okay. Very cool. I don't know if you want to steer the conversation to anything else that you're working on or something that you want to shout out besides Talent Pool, but I am done with my questions.
Yeah, I feel like it's a thing of African talent is it's basically is the next frontier. Like a lot of people, when I was starting the company, I was met with a lot of rejections. Like it was crazy. I mentioned earlier that I reached out to four people, actually five, to become my co-founder. All of them rejected me. Yeah. They're like, the idea is too big. Someone told me that it doesn't see, especially with the hiring freeze in tech, like it doesn't see the company succeeding. Like I've been faced with so much rejection and like obstacles, but one of my superpowers is I'm very, very stubborn with my goals.
Hmm.
So it's a thing of people will always say, I don't believe in you, but once you tell yourself, I don't believe in myself, you have, like, you fail. Yeah. So I knew
Right.
that to succeed. I knew, and this is just the beginning. Like in the next year, talent is probably going to be everywhere. And it's just by seeing and like working on the idea a lot. So I'll say African talent is the next frontier. A lot of people say, what's the word? South Asian talent in terms of India, in terms of Philippines. But the issue there is that, especially in the US, they label such talent as cheap. And I hate that word cheap. Even
Hmm.
in talent, if you check through the website, you will not see anything cheap. You see two things: quality, cost effectiveness. Those are two things that, as a company, if we can provide, we are obviously going like in the rocket ship right now. Quality talent and cost effective talent. These are what we are doing in Talentpool. And yeah, it's an amazing journey. And you can't replicate the feeling you get when you're able to help people's lives, especially in Africa. Like you're able to get someone to earn times two, take care of their family. And I always say Talentpool is a passion driven company, and the life will affect or impact rather the next 2, 3 years will just be so amazing.
So you mentioned that you were um, rejected when you were starting to look for a co-founder. How did you eventually? Did you find a co-founder eventually, or did you just go ahead and start on your own?
So I'm going to quote or rather like rephrase what someone told me. Yeah, when I was being rejected, the person said that everyone won't understand what you are building. Yeah, but when you start, the right people will come. So after being rejected 5 times, I was so sad because the first two sets of folks that I was so sure they were going to listen to the idea because we have worked on like various projects. One was in the US, another was in India. So I'm like, perfect. The US person can be looking for clients, the Indian person can also be looking for clients, while I'll handle Africa. But both of them rejected. So I was like, what's going on? I asked another person rejected. So I said, let me know what, I'm not going to start it myself. And it's funny because I have two co-founders now, like two in the founding team. The first person that I reached out to, I've known him since last year. So if I wasn't rejected by this guy, I wouldn't have seen him. So as I was rejected, I was like, this guy can actually do it. And the first day I messaged him, is like, he's ready to start. And his name is Lloyd. Shout out to you, Lloyd. And his work has been amazing. Like we talk almost every day, going into 2 a.m. Like we are still talking now as I'm on this podcast. Like 2 a.m. He's on the call with me. That was one of my amazing co-founders. And the next person is Karen. Karen, I shout out to Karen as well. I call her Iron Lady, yeah, because I'm a very playful person, yeah. So Karen is like a serious person, yeah. Like if anyone messes up, Karen is like the person I call, like, hey, this person messed up, and she comes in like and gets the job done. So these two people are amazing. Like having them on my team, sort of, I think propelled us to success because every day I come up with ideas and like brainstorm with them, make sure they understand my vision. And without them, I don't think Talent would have been this successful. And we right now we have six. We had three before, now we have six. Like the way we are growing. So I always say by next year it will probably times four of what we did this year. Or I just getting started basically.
So for this first phase, how many countries are you? Do you have talent from currently?
It's crazy because we have like the last role we advertised for, we had 446 applications, yeah. And
Mm.
out of those 446, we had people from obviously Nigeria, Nairobi, that's in Kenya, Zimbabwe, Rwanda, Tanzania, South Africa, Cameroon. We have people from a lot of African countries here, but we narrowed it down to 3 countries we have a lot of presence in. The first is Nigeria, of course, because of the number and the population. The second is Nairobi, because in terms of tech talent, after Nigeria, Nairobi is next, and the third is Zambia. So we have presence in those three countries, but we'll keep on growing because the truth is that any role we advertise, other African countries apply, but this is where most of our talents are basically.
Very cool. So you are in quite a few countries already. That's pretty impressive. And so, do you eventually want to cover the whole continent of Africa? Is that in the plan?
That's virtually impossible. Yeah. The truth is that when even a lot of companies make these mistakes, especially international companies, like saying they want to conquer Africa. We have 54 countries in Africa, yeah, and each country has a unique value proposition. Country has different things that work for them. Like people don't know that some countries in Africa actually speak French. Yeah, some like they speak other languages. So you have to understand that what works in Nigeria might not work in Zambia, or might not work in um, let's say Egypt. So you look out for where is tech talent like surplus, and you know countries like Nigeria, Kenya, Egypt, Tunisia, Rwanda. These are countries that there's a lot of tech talent, yeah, and they are easy. Their English skills are also very good, yeah. So you look out for where tech talent is in surplus, and you just cover there because, like I mentioned before, Nigeria alone is 243 million people, yeah. So
Right.
imagine some companies just focus on Nigeria, and that's all. They don't go after Nigeria. Maybe they go to Ghana.
Yeah, that makes sense that you target the places where there's a lot of tech talent already. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I pretty much, I'm lost for more questions. But it was really great to hear about like how you started the company. Do you want to talk more about how you leveraged your network to get started?
Yeah, definitely. I think the funny thing is that actually they advised me on how to go. Yeah, because some of my competitors in terms of what I'm building, Andela, remote based, Tunga, like I know a lot of people there. So it was ideal to talk to them because they enabled me know the tools to use, the platforms to go to, how to vet. And it was with all these conversations. I spoke to people like for 2 months. I was just speaking to everyone in my network, like in terms of companies that did the same thing I did. And yeah, I was able to build off like what they said. I was able to create the vetting process. How, because at first, initially I started off with diverse talent. Then I learned that we're African, so we're not really diverse unless we go to US and other countries. So instead of saying diverse, I focused on best. And even when we match talent, there's diversity in supplying quality talent from Africa. So it was just a lot of conversations, like in terms of what is what I want to build, this is what I'm heading to. Some discouraged me, yeah, like what's your value proposition, what's your unique selling point. I didn't have that at that point, but with time, I was able to discover that okay, this is how we are going to stand out in the market as a company.
How did you find your first client?
For this story, yeah, my first client wanted to hire me as a community manager. Instead, I pitched to him that I should hire someone for my pool. So my first client, I mentioned I was in Kenya. So I was applying for the job. So I'm like, you know what? Something else told me, like, rather than apply, why didn't I pitch talent pool to him? And I did, and he was my first ever client. Shout out to Flurry. Like they are a health tech company based in the US. And yeah, they got on board, they were interested in the idea and we matched someone to them.
I love that story. So instead of applying for the job yourself, you pitched someone from your talent pool. That's really
Exactly.
cool. How do you go about getting clients now? Because do you do the same thing, like just look out for job listings, or how do you source clients?
Wow, that's a very, very good question. So the way we source clients right now is we do three approaches. The first is cold emailing, yeah, and we don't sell our company, so we sell ourselves. I'll explain. So if I'm reaching out to you, I wouldn't even mention anything about talent pool. Instead, I'll say, okay, I'm a founder. I'm building this company. that I would love to get your insights or I would love to connect with you as a fellow founder. And most times people react and reply. So once they reply to us, we pitch talent to also listen to them pitch about their company, see if there's an alignment, and yeah, we just take it from there. Because I realized that even myself, I get a lot of sales emails, and people don't really open it as before. So people are really like turned off from sales. So you have to come with a different approach. How do you come in an approach that this founder or this company will listen to you? So by presenting yourself in terms of what they are building, like the idea why I started the company. So that's the first way, cold emailing. Then events as well. We are on Twitter Spaces, LinkedIn events. We try to connect to as many founders as possible, share them the idea of building talent pool, connect to them, schedule a call with them, talk to them about the idea, understand their needs, and yeah, we match. In the last phase is, of course, still leveraging my network, like seeing who needs our services, if we can get referrals. So yeah, those are the three basic ways right now we're reaching out. We're reaching out to clients.
Okay, that's smart. So you reach out to other founders and tell them what you're working on. That's
Exactly.
okay. That's pretty cool. I got a lot of value out of our conversation. I thought it was really cool hearing like the origin story of the idea, how you kind of got started, even though like you didn't have a team to start with you. Like it's a very inspiring story, like as a founder myself, because yeah, it's inspiring to see someone have an idea and like execute on it and to have the success that you're having right now. That it's pretty amazing.
I always tell my team we have to move faster. And they're like, we are doing it. I'm like, we have a goal to hit. Our goal is 30 clients this year. I want to reach like 50K MRR. That's monthly recurring revenue. So although we are getting clients, I'm like, let's keep going. But sometimes I realize that one of the best traits you can have as a founder or as a manager is empathy. Yeah. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
someone that works around the clock, but everyone has their different working styles. So I had to learn that the hard way. Like, okay, this person, how does he work? How can I help the person move like at his own pace? So yeah, that also like you learn a lot managing people. It's not easy because you are managing emotions as well.
Did you have experience managing people before you started the company?
That's a good question. So Talentpool is actually my third startup. Yeah, considering
Mm-hmm.
my like I'm 26. Yeah, and most people don't know that. Like I've built two companies like when I was 28, 19, and I think 18, 19, and when I was 22. So those are the first companies I built. And I've always worked in managerial positions. Like my first remote job, I was in charge of someone, like two people. So I've always been in that leadership position. I don't want to say it's because I'm a Leo, but but I've just always been in a leadership position, like from birth. Like in class, they will pick me to come and lead the team. So I just grew up being a leader, like a natural leader, and sort of progressed in my career. Like I was one of the youngest, um, what's the word, heads of my chapter, like an NGO I was working with. I was in charge of like people while I was still in college. So yeah, I just learned a lot at a young age of how to manage people and manage emotions.
Wow. Yeah, that's impressive. Have you do you have any stories so far of from your talent saying that what you've built has changed their lives?
Yeah. So I'll talk about two stories here. So the first is, I should mention that in talent pool, one of the things I'm very big on is feedback because I've been in the position most of them are applying for jobs and not getting like responses. So for talent pool, everyone that applies gets a feedback into why you were rejected. Yeah. So we had a mother in Cameroon. I think she just gave birth and she was looking for a job. So it was very, very difficult for me as a human because you could tell this person needed a job and they were quality talent, but they were not the best talent. So it was a learning curve for me. How do I reject someone in a way that the person doesn't feel so bad, but the person is motivated to work hard? So I thought about it. I'm like, okay, I'll reject you because there are better candidates, or rather more quality candidates. Yeah. But doesn't mean you are not quality, doesn't mean you are less talented. So I actually scheduled a call with her and explained why we chose to go with a second candidate. And she was like, you could tell that she wanted to cry because the feedback was really like precise. I was like, okay, this is why you should work on this. So it was a moment for me where I'm like, okay, this is different because I'm dealing with emotions now. I think the second one was when we always tell people they have the job, you could see their excitement. Like you could see the way they are smiling and like I'm not. It was difficult for me starting off, like telling people, "Hey, we are going on a different route." But I could also see when we accept people into the network, the way they are, the way their life changes, the way they thank us. Like it's needed, like this company, and yeah, that's essentially what we are doing. I always say the one liner is, or rather, the one sentence is, we are changing lives in Africa. And that's what I'm passionate about, and that's what my company is also doing.
I love it. Yeah, that's really cool. So we are at the end of our time, and I want to thank Jeph once again for taking the time and for sharing his story and the story of Talentpool. Jeph, do you have any final words?
Yeah, I think my word I always live with is do it afraid. Yeah, like anything that scares me, pull my pants basically when I started talent pool. And up to today, I still get the fear, but I know that it's impacting lives. And even if it's scary, I know that it's a vision bigger than me. So just do it afraid. Like if you want to start something, don't wait for it being perfect. Just do it afraid, basically.
Great advice. Do it afraid. And with that, we will go ahead and end this podcast. Thanks, Jeph.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Our Voices podcast. It's time to make our shout out to our sponsor, and that is Level Up Financial Planning. If you'd like to check them out, head over to our website, ourvoicespodcast.blog/sponsors with an S, and check them out. Thanks again for listening. Bye.